All right, guys, we are here. We are joined with John. Say hello, John.
Hello, John.
And obviously Hitman. So you may remember Hitman. He was in the actual CitizenCon. And yeah, joined us actually for SitCon, and I believe is a friend of John's. So guys, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through and we're going to be watching Inside Star Citizen. I haven't seen this yet. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
No, I just woke up like 15 minutes ago.
Sweet. And yeah, have you seen it, John? Sorry, Hitman, have you seen it or?
Not yet.
No, cool. No, so none of us have seen it yet. So basically, guys, we're just going to jump straight into it. We're going to be pausing. We're going to be talking. So if you guys have anything that you want to add, simply letting me know, and obviously we'll stop the video, but we'll just work our way through it. And it goes for 18 minutes, so goddamn, I love the time. Let's kick it off.
Hello, my name is John Griffiths. I'm a lead environment artist here at Star Citizen at Cloud Imperium. Again. Hi, my name is John Griffiths, and I'm a lead environment artist at Cloud Imperium Games. I'm heading up EU Sandbox 2, and we're working on the revamped underground facilities which you saw at CitizenCon. This is also my first ISC episode, and it's also the first in our lovely new office. So I hope you enjoy. So after we've gone through that kind of concept development phase, where we're just fleshing out ideas, it's time to kind of think about what actually the underground facilities are going to be. How much time is the player going to be spending there? What are they going to be doing there? How many they're going to be? What kind of themes they're going to be? All that jazz we need to think about, and we also need to plan out how we're going to do it. So when we're in the stage of very early on in development, it's about kind of iterating quickly, getting into the editor, getting feedback on what we're doing, playing the location as a complete thing as fast as possible, because only when we see things in context of what they're going to be can we really make actual great decisions on what it is we're making. And this is a collaboration between art and design, mission content. The directors are involved. It's just molding the beast into something tangible, which we can then take into our planning stage to iron out what it is we need to create and how we're going to create them. So we've come out of pre-production.
Alright, so just before we continue, so it looks like it's in grey box or white box already.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts, I kind of like it. Obviously, it's white box, grey box. Obviously, you know, there's not the final details that have not been put on. That, you know, they don't have like the deck plating detail. They don't have, you know, ladder detail or anything like that. It's like I say, it's grey box, white box. But I can actually see, like, it looks like there's a lot of vocality in it. It looks like there's a lot of areas to explore. I really like this. I actually think it's kind of interesting. What do you guys think?
I'm just gonna echo what you said. I think if we're gonna be clearing bunkers like this, we're gonna need more people for it.
Yeah.
More than just one or two. You know that.
Yeah. So like bunkers, I used to be able to do on my own. Or you know, push comes to shove, you or Fez or whatever would jump in, right? But at the end of the day, with these sort of areas, I think you're right. I think this is going to be a 3 or 4 man team. They reckon 60 minutes is what I've been hearing from my guy. 60 minutes of gameplay they want at least.
Well, I could. Maybe you'll be able to one man it, but I'm thinking that you'll have to do a bunch of really sneaky shit.
Stuff it. What about you, Hitman? What are your thoughts initially? No, okay. I think he's having problems at the moment.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, are you there? No. Alright. We'll let him get him sort of stuff sorted out and keep moving.
We now need to get a plan together so that the team can start working. So at the moment we can see all these boxes. all the ones on the top are rooms, all the ones underneath are overlays. So overlays give us that variety. When the team looks at this, they don't have to come to me to ask, does the surface structure medium need work doing to it or not? They can read it for themselves here. This is great because it gives us a big overview of what's required for the location, and it also means that we can break it down into kind of content packs. So our tier 0 is everything that we would need to release this into the universe with some variation. Our tiers after that kind of are additional content which might flesh out some of the UGFs or give it a new theme or that kind of thing. So some of the rooms that are in production at the moment, let's just skip over to them. So this looks like one whole thing. It's actually two things. So it's the
Now we
surface.
can hear you.
Yep. You there yet, mate? No, all right.
Yeah, my headset had some updates and everything.
That's all good. Yep. So, what was your initial thoughts on the bunkers in grey box, white box?
Bouncing off of what John was saying, I remember from SitCon they were saying they wanted experiences that could be up to 60 minutes long.
Yep.
So it makes me think that based on the difficulty of what you'll be doing might determine exactly where or how far you'll be going in the bunker or how much time you'll be spending in it.
Hmm. Yeah, and obviously, like at the end of the day, they're probably playing this for a 3 or 4 man team. 60 minutes is probably a 3 or 4 man team. If you go in there and solo it, you're probably going to be in there for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So obviously, depending on how many people you take in as to how fast you can get it done. But I from what I've heard, 60 minutes is their sort of their aim for the large ones. But let's keep going. So this is a internal loading area. Sorry. This is interesting. We'll keep going there.
Structure, which is this guy in the middle, and this kind of surrounding hangar. How do you actually get there? We've also got our physical elevator spaces. So if we go from the top, this is where you trundle down into the UGF on a lovely diagonal elevator. You've got the elevator shaft components themselves. So you might have really long elevator rides. You might have really short ones. And then where you end up at the bottom of the elevator ride, this room is currently in progress as well. This is a more refined plan to begin with, but we still need to get into the actual numbers of how much time this will actually take to make. So then we come to our trusty Microsoft Excel. And in here, this is just putting estimates on how long we think things will take. So for us, that's in this next phase, which is white boxing. We want to block the rooms out. We want to add content. We want to get the gameplay in there. We want to split things into overlays, test it with our ProcGen tool, and get all that done. So we estimate this like this, and we put in all of those rooms that we called out before. We've got all the room types it can be and how big or small the thing is. So using this kind of grid, we can call out, well, there's one room that's got a retheme, there's 2 rooms which are medium and large that need to be done, and this calculates how much time is required, so you can look at it from room time.
So if you're reading this on the side, right, for a start, I love the fact that CIG is showing us this sort of stuff. We've never seen anything like this in the past. You can see on the side, it looks like it says 1,255 for total estimates. I'm wondering if that's hours. 1,255 hours to complete all the work. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, look at the end of the day, depending on how many people are on this, as to how many hours, divide that by, work week. If it's only 1,255 hours, there's 5 people on there per day working an 8-hour shift. It's 40 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 2,000 hours. They could probably get this, yeah. But depends. We'll see. Keep going.
Type. You can do the time that way, or you can look at how many medium rooms it will take. We can do it that way as well. This calculates it all. Puts into a lovely little table, And then we can also call out how many artists there are, how many designers.
There we go.
How many
Number of artists is 3. Number of designers is 2. Number of leads is 1. Total team is 6. Total days 22 days. Combined tools sprint 46. Looks like they're going to get this done in about a week, in about a month. We might actually see this sooner than I thought. I thought this was going to be like a 4.3. This sounds like it might be a 4.0 version.
Well,
I think this also depends on like if their priorities get reshuffled for anything else that might pop up.
True. John, what were you going to say?
I when I was looking at the gray box and this, I'm sitting here thinking maybe we'll get this as a 3.19 patch.
Yeah, well, we don't know if there's going to be a 3.19 or what yet. Obviously, they haven't even.
There probably will, because let's be honest,
I suspect
we probably are going to see 4.0 till this time next year.
Yeah, that's what I've been sold is that most likely your 4.0 is going to be SeaCon next year. That's what they're aiming for with server meshing and stuff like that.
I could put on my little theory hat. I don't think they would want to release this with 4.0 even if it was ready, because in case they don't have something to trickle down the line, then they could put this in a 4.x patch, and then that would give more playability to the verse during that time period.
Or here's another
and they
thing.
can polish it even further.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Do you think they might release it in, say, 3.19 in Stanton so that we can go through, play test it, and then when it comes out in 4.x, we get like level like tier 1, tier 2, whatever it may be, more polished, bug fixed, full pyro. Because as far as we know, these bunkers, these aren't just a pyro thing. They're also going to update the Stanton ones as well. Yeah.
And even in like concepts, they were showing us like they mean for this to kind of be a modular system they use going on throughout the game.
Yeah, they're using the same system as it is for the space stations to build. I forget what the system's called now. Where it will go through and it actually procedurally generates them and randomizes it and stuff like that. But we'll keep going.
Days per artist, how many total days for a sprint, blah blah blah, get all that done, and that gives us our kind of ballpark figure to go with to begin with. I think I might have to retake this.
No, you're doing good. At what point do we ignore all? At what point do we ignore all this?
Okay, so it's great having all of this, and it gives us a really good plan to begin with going forwards. But as you probably know, game development isn't really a concrete process. You can have all the numbers in the world, but you'll still have things that kind of crop up out of nowhere. That is what game development really is. So from this point now, we can get back into the editor, we can start fleshing out these rooms, we can start doing these overlays, we can start finding the variety and really bringing these new underground facilities to life.
The new underground facilities first seen at this year's Citizen.
So I just want to re-emphasize that whole caveat that, guys, obviously what we're talking about is theory crafting. At the end of the day, subject to change. This channel is a lot to do with theory crafting and what we could possibly see in the future and how things affect us and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, obviously don't take what we say as gospel. We're just 3 idiots sitting around watching Inside Star Citizen together. And I'm probably the biggest idiot of them all.
CitizenCon Showcase have already moved into production with designers and artists alike building out the currently spec'd out 93 different rooms and 196 overlay variations necessary to
Holy
place them
shit.
throughout the
93 rooms and 106 variances?
Yeah, I think that's what he said. Holy shit.
That's a lot. Like, that's... Yeah, okay. That is cool.
existing
I'm just hoping that.
and up.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just thinking. I'm hoping that the existing locations are large enough to accommodate for the new underground facilities. And if not, that the terrain tool that they use to like place stuff, we will be able to edit the planets or the moons that haven't been touched in like years.
Yeah, so I suspect that's why they're bringing this in now and didn't bring it in before, was they've just recently released a new tool which will actually raise or lower or flatten the land without affecting the surrounding areas so much. So it's more like blending in, like for example, if there's like rock, like a flat area, it'll put a flat area, but it'll sort of like make like slopes and stuff to sort of blend it with the other areas. The reason I'm thinking we're getting this now is because that these are so large, they need that tool so that when they do put these facilities down, you don't get like what we get in Imperium with, you know, a half a base sticking out of a mountain or something like that. So I think this is why we're getting it now, and is literally months after that tool was developed, was to make it so that these areas are perfect for that.
Yeah.
Coming Pyro star system. But while that's still many months away yet, let's go ahead and turn our attention to something coming in this December's Alpha 318, the imminent arrival of the next exciting parts of our new Gen 12 renderer. Now, bringing with it our collective hopes for improved performance, let's go now to Sylvan in our Frankfurt studio, who's got an update for us on the current progress.
Hey everyone, I'm Sylvan. I'm engine programmer here at CIG, working on Gen 12 for the past years, and I'm incredibly excited to share with all of you the latest progress we've made on Gen 12. But first, let's get everyone on the same page real quick and explain what Gen 12
Base
is.
Banu Merchantman in the background.
Yeah. You know, I didn't notice that. I did
The old
notice.
concept art too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, get hashtag make the BMM look like that, please. Yeah, no more duck face.
This will just scratch the surface though. For a deeper look, I highly recommend watching our last year's CitizenCon progress update on Gen 12 and Vulkan. So, Gen 12 in a nutshell is our new renderer, and we came up with this name as a natural step forward from DirectX 11, which Star Citizen right now pretty much all of you are using when playing the game. DirectX 11 is a graphics API which our engine interacts to make use of the GPU and renders all of Star Citizen's beauty. How fast a game engine can feed the graphics API or the GPU with rendering commands is dependent on two factors. First, the CPU performance, and second, the implementation of the rendering engine. And the latter is what Gen 12 is all about. It is from the ground up a complete redesign of our old rendering architecture, which decreases CPU submission time massively. The end goal of Gen 12, however, is to make use of a new graphics API called Vulkan, which will boost performance even more and also allows us to add new cool features like AI scaling, ray tracing, efficient multi-view rendering for VR, and Linux support, and more.
Did he mention
This
VR?
meant, however, we had to rewrite
Let me rewind it for a little bit.
multi-view rendering for VR
Yeah.
and Linux support.
Yeah.
Yeah. VR, Linux support, and everything. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I heard that like the VR is like one guy doing it in his fucking spare time.
So no, what happened was he said one of the devs came out and said that he wants VR in Star Citizen himself, and he said even if it's him doing it on his own in his spare time, it's going to be in the game. So like he's basically saying that no matter what happens, even if I have to sit here and code this on my own in my spare time, you're going to get your VR support. Don't worry. But
Unless
Shit.
he leaves.
yeah, but at the end of the day, my understanding is that the team is fully behind VR support because Chris wants it.
Yeah, I mean this would make a very good VR game.
Oh yeah, I've
I think I
always
get lost for years.
Well, that's what. So I don't know what you guys are. How much of you guys are Stargate fans, right? But there was that episode where they go to that planet and the people are in the pods, and they're hooked into that virtual world, right? And I've long said that if Chris completes Star Citizen, throw me in one of those pods. The New World Order can have me.
Yeah.
You make Star Citizen. I'll stop banging on about the New World Order and how bad it is. You can throw me in a pod. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be like, especially you imagine something like that, right, where you're sort of like you're fully immersed into that, or in a new example is that new show Peripheral that came out. I've watched the first 2 episodes. It's amazing, by the way. That show Peripheral, where you take control of someone in the future, but you're wearing a headpiece, and it feels like you're really there. Like that is just I'm like, sign me up. I'd love that shit. Although, can you imagine how many people would get addicted to VR if that was?
Yeah.
Like, this is sort of like starting a whole bunch of new questions about, like, and this is where you start getting into like Star Trek holograms, right? Is at the end of the day, we already have enough problems with guys and women and men and women not getting along. You imagine like a guy coming home and not going out on a date because he's too busy jacking into the VR world and getting lap dance from VR strippers.
That or like just blasting Vandal or something.
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, it could cause a lot of damage when it comes to like relationships with male and female, just because like people would just stop dating because that's a loaded question. We probably keep moving.
And more. This meant, however, we had to rewrite every single graphics feature and ensure that it's running smoothly and as expected on this new architecture. A daunting task.
Is that guy behind him a dummy or a... Oh no, he just moved. It's fine.
Hundreds of different shaders, thousands of materials, and dozens of features actively used in production. You've seen our first milestone mid last year, 2021, with patch 3.14, when we had a few post-processing effects running on Gen 12 by default. This proved that our new rendering architecture was working as intended, and we could start heavily focusing on the scene object rendering, which is the biggest and the most time-consuming task for Gen 12. Almost a year later, with 3.17, we hit our next big milestone and could turn on Gen 12 for all our static geometry, including all scattered terrain objects. That was also the time when a lot of people saw an actual meaningful performance improvement in Star Citizen. Although, to be fair, that patch, Gen 12, was just one of many optimizations we employed there. The thing is, since then, the engine is running in a sort of mixed mode, which means most of the code is running through legacy and just calls into Gen 12, which is ported and works at the moment. This actually adds an additional overhead and is the reason why I didn't expect anything of a big performance improvement the last patch, and we didn't show anything or didn't announce anything. But I'm happy to announce, and very proud, that we're nearly done with porting absolutely everything to Gen 12, and not just the scene object rendering, but also our new path-centric rendering system. As we speak,
remember, John, when I said to you earlier this week, I said to you that the announcement was coming with Gen 12, that almost everything was in Gen 12, and it was about 95% complete.
So you're thinking this is going to be a 318?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think they're trying to get it done for 318 to have it completely Gen 12.
Good. This game needs more.
Well, the biggest thing
stuff.
The biggest thing this game needs is server meshing.
Server meshing.
Yeah,
but this helps.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Look, 120 frames, 180 frames, or whatever is fantastic, right? We can all beat our dicks off to it. But at the end of the day, let's face it, 30, 40 frames a second is more than playable. It's not ideal, sure, but it's more than playable. It's not the thing that's holding back the game at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest thing is...
Yeah, can I jump in?
Yeah.
So my biggest issue that I'm seeing is stuttering. And
Really? Okay.
so if I go to do a bunker mission, there's like a bunch of stuttering and lag and stuff, and I don't think the Gen 12 renderer is going to do much, if anything, for that. That seems like a server-side or client-side issue to me. Which...
Actually, you might be wrong, because I was going to say, when I do the bunker missions and stuff, I generally don't have a problem with stuttering. Now, I don't know what processor you're running, but I'm
running a... I want to say it's the i9 that came out in 2020.
Right.
i9 109KF.
Okay, so we got the same processor. Because that's what I got. Yeah, I've got an i9 9900K. So at the end of the day, okay, so I was going to say, I don't really have a problem with stuttering. The only time I really get stuttering is like engaging content, like traveling around planets and stuff, like spline jumping and stuff. But at the end of the day, I was going to... So?
I should probably try it on my own, because the last time I want to say I tried it, I was with you, and maybe it was me connecting to the Aussie servers.
Could be, yeah. But anything you want to add, Hitman, or keep going? No. All right.
Actually, I do have one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
I wonder if we're gonna see more in the way of like the improvements to lighting and stuff.
Well, he said scene. He said scene there. So I think the lighting was already mostly done. But
yeah,
Gen 12 enables ray tracing.
Yeah.
So while we mightn't get a benefit with Gen 12, we might get a benefit with Gen 12 if they start incorporating ray tracing and Vulkan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because they're add-ons. They're extras.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Alright.
We're fixing the last few things to get it fully ready for 3.18. This is not a promise.
There you go.
But we're working hard to make it possible.
They're trying to get it done for 3.18.
Also keep in mind that this first version of Gen 12 is just a it just works version. We haven't even started optimizing it yet at all, and you can expect huge improvements the following patches up until we can finally start making use of Vulkan. Enough talking, let's hop into the engine and take a look at a couple scenes while I'm explaining a few things to set reasonable expectations. Keep in mind that all of these tests are done in debug builds with one set of hardware and can result in a totally different experience on a different machine. Also note that Gen 12 primarily boosts CPU performance, so if you have a weak GPU or playing in very high resolutions, which is really demanding for GPUs, your game is probably GPU bound and you won't see much of a benefit. Okay, so let's take a look at the scene here in Orson, which is well known to be one of the most expensive cities in game right now. Before we start, please do me one favor and don't look at the FPS, because this is a highly unoptimized build with highly unoptimized code and very expensive difficulty. So any discussion about FPS here is completely meaningless. Alright, so on the right side we have this D3D API call info window, which tells us precisely how many draw calls and how many API calls we do every frame. This is the work the engine has to do to...
I just want to say before we keep going, I love the fact that they are giving this behind the scenes look on everything.
Yeah.
You look at what they've shown us today. They're showing us literally a debug build with the information on the screen showing us draw calls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Earlier we saw literally them talking about how long it was going to take and then talking about time schedules and stuff like that for the bunker missions. This is CIG being completely, here's everything out this is everything that we can talk about.
Yeah,
Where-
this is what we've been bitching
Yeah.
about. This is what we've been bitching for a while.
Yeah, and I can tell you now, like, compared to other games that I play, like, for example, Osiris or Imperium, the information that we get from CIG is far better than any of those other companies have ever put out.
Yeah.
And now they've gone to a whole new level where, like, hey, this is the information for, like, time schedules on bunker missions. This is a full disclosure that we haven't even seen or seen before. And that Jared makes the joke at the time, like, how much of this are we actually going to put in the show? Obviously it was a joke, but
Yeah.
I just love the fact that we've got this full disclosure behind the looks, because, like, this is like people like me. I love this shit. I love seeing all this tech stuff. But let's keep going.
Send commands to the graphics driver, which determines how fast the CPU can feed the GPU with commands to render our frame. This is pure legacy mode. We have 47,000 API calls, and let's switch it to Gen 12. So this is Gen 12 mode. The API calls drop to about 33,000, which is quite significant for literally rendering the same scene.
You can see, actually...
Okay, let's take a closer look behind the scenes. Well, let's take a look at this.
So you can actually see there on the graph where he activates it, where it actually drops. So see how you got the line, I'm not sure if you guys can see my cursor, and then it sort of spikes and then it drops down. That's simply him accessing Gen 12. That's pretty cool.
Rendering the same scene. Okay, let's take a closer look behind the scenes. Well, let's take a look at this optic capture from that scene on Orson. Optic is a very helpful tool for us developers to get a very detailed understanding of what's going on in our engine. This includes what every thread is doing and when it is doing it. So let's take a look at the main and render thread, which are relevant for us in this context. Let's zoom in. And let's take a look at one of those frames here. So at the top, we've got the main thread. The main thread is what you could say the heart of the whole engine. It pretty much orchestrates everything, like when entities get updated, when physics get calculated, when do we render, and so forth. One of the main tasks is to figure out which objects are in our view system and which objects we want to render. This is what the main thread does on top of here. Once we figure that out, all that work is pushed into a queue to be processed by the render thread. At the bottom, we've got the render thread. And this is a very CPU intensive task, which is why it is leveraged by a completely dedicated thread. So what we can see here is that the render thread takes an immense amount of time to process one frame. In fact, it's so long that it even surpasses the work the main thread has to do. In this context, it means we are render thread bound, which means if we optimize the render, if we get it to run faster, we will see more FPS on the screen, as long as we are not GPU bound. So let's take a look at a Gen 12 frame. So here we've got a Gen 12 frame.
Oh,
now
wow.
The opposite is the case. The render thread runs faster than the main thread,
Yeah.
which is indicated by this red bar here at the end. This means the render thread has to wait for the main thread to finish. And Hence, in render thread bound scenarios, as long as we're not bound by the GPU, we will see an FPS increase. And if we zoom out here, we can see that every frame the render thread is quite faster than the main thread.
Yeah, it finishes early.
And yeah, waits up to 20 milliseconds on some frames. Whereas in Legacy,
It's the other way around.
yeah, the opposite is the case, and the main thread has to wait. To summarize, with the current Gen 12 renderer, we saw a tremendous amount of API call reduction than before, and depending on the scene, 50 to 100% faster render thread performance. Let me emphasize again that all these numbers are not final, and we haven't been optimizing Gen 12 at all yet, and you can expect more improvement in the future. It also depends highly on the hardware you're running at, so once it hits live and you're using it, let me know how it's working for you. So what's coming next, you may ask? Well, once we're fully done with Gen 12 and we can actually run Vulkan, there's still a lot of optimizations we have to do, like actually completely getting rid of the render thread, employ a fully multi-threading rendering approach, doing async compute, and so much more. The sky's the limit here. And since we're developing Vulkan in parallel at the moment, it is to be expected that once Gen 12 is fully working, it won't take long for you to have it in your hands too. But more about that in the future when it's actually ready. Last but not least, a big shout out to everyone involved in getting Gen 12 ready so far. And yeah, I hope you liked this little sneak peek into the future of Star Citizen's rendering engine. And feel free to drop any questions in Spectrum, and I'll gladly do my best to answer them. Thanks.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that resource planning is an essential...
Alright, that was actually really interesting. So, with Gen 12, instead of them waiting for the GPU, waiting for the main thread, they're waiting for the render thread, sorry. The main thread was finishing and waiting. And then after Gen 12, the render thread was doing it and finishing before the main thread. So what that basically means is with optimizations and stuff like that, obviously if you can get those two numbers down, you get a higher FPS, you get a better view, you know, so that's where you start getting your 120, 140 frames. Now, like he said, at the end of the day, this is them without even optimizing Gen 12. So yeah, this is where, yeah, and then when he starts talking about like GPU bound and stuff like that, obviously what he's talking about there, guys, from my layman's understanding, GPU bound is where, for example, your GPU card is slower than your processor is able to supply, so that your CPU is literally waiting for your GPU to finish drawing or finish rendering so that it can then continue on to the next scene. Now, you're always going to be bound at some point, whether it be GPU, CPU, memory, whatever it may be. You're always going to have some limitation, right? No matter how good your GPU card is, there's going to be a CPU or memory or something that's going to bind you. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm interested in the multi-core that he was talking about. Because I thought Gen 12 had multi-core as a standard, but it seems like that is something that's an add-on that's going to be coming in later in the future, and that's going to help people like you and me, John, who have like multi-core processors and stuff like that as well. Anything you guys want to add? John, we'll start with you.
Not really. Nothing I haven't said already. Yes.
Hitman, anything you got to add about the Gen 12 stuff?
I'm not really fully comprehensive or understanding of the
Gen 12?
Yeah, the Gen 12 and the engines and stuff like that. But bigger numbers mean better numbers, so yeah.
And obviously, guys, the biggest thing too is once we go through and we get this in our hands, that'll be the ultimate test. You know, it might actually be interesting, like for example, if we jump in and we start doing recordings with the FPS on the screen for say 317.4, And then when we get 318 or 318.1 or whatever it may be, we can then go through and compare the FPS and see how much of a difference it makes. Obviously, the proof is going to be in the pudding when it comes to the FPS. But like he said, even after, hopefully 318, there's still a lot of optimization that's going to have to happen, and which is obviously going to give us better stats anyway. But let's get going because it's just finishing up now.
Step to ensuring your artists and designers are working efficiently to deliver locations like the new underground facilities quicker than ever before. That the new underground facilities themselves are already in production, and you can bet we'll be following along with their progress ahead of their scheduled release next year. And that the new Gen 12 renderer looks to relieve much of the current CPU bottleneck in the persistent universe, and that work will still continue after the next major milestone in the upcoming Alpha 318. Now don't forget that this year's Day of the Vara Halloween festivities are going on right now. You can check out all the details on the robertspaceindustries.com website. And if you're looking at what this new set and wondering what the heck's going on, maybe you should check out this year's CitizenCon 2952 full broadcast, which is available now on both our Twitch and YouTube channels. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee, broadcasting from inside the only constant. We'll see you back here next week.
All right. Wrap up. We'll start with you, Hitman. What did you like? What you didn't like? Was there anything you can think of that they should do better? Or
I really liked the underground bunkers, and I was thinking about it more. And it might be possible we'll see them come to the game not completely implemented in a way. They might start with the top layer, give us missions in the top layer, and then as they add more missions and they flesh it out, they might add more segments to it.
So, yeah, I would say we'd probably get a basic one. We could probably get a basic one, and then they'll add more variances to the rooms. They said, what was it, 96 rooms, 106 variances or whatever. So, so they might give us something like 10 rooms and 30 variances or something like that. And then add, another 10 after that, another 10 after that, and work their way up. But even that said, according to what we saw on the screen and stuff, this could be a 318, 319 thing maybe.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Like I said, I imagine, in Stanton only. And then obviously by the time they came out to Pyro, they would be obviously tier 0, tier 1, whatever. John, your thoughts? Would you like, didn't like?
I think Hitman's right. We'll probably see some sort of implementation of the bunker missions before 4.0.
Yeah.
And I might be curious to see when exactly we'll get Gen 12. It from the sound of things, it'll probably be a 318X patch. Although maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it might be a 318.1. Obviously, from what I've heard, is that they're going to be going through and putting the PTU for Ivacati this week. So at the end of the day, obviously, you would hope that the Gen 12 stuff is in the Ivacati build, but it could always be something that they could always add to another Ivacati build later. The biggest thing they're testing with Ivacati, from what I understand, is PES. So, they might do PES testing for now, get that all figured out, and then put the Gen 12 in for another Ivacati build after, or something like that. Yeah. But it's I just love the fact that they gave us this behind the scenes look on everything. Just the fact that this full disclosure of, hey, this is how we do the bunker missions, this is the timetable, this is how we break it all down, this is Gen 12, this is how it's going, this is the FPS difference, this is how it works. Just the full disclosure in itself is fantastic. I can imagine how it's going to bite him in the ass. I imagine a lot of people like Salty Mike and whatnot are probably going to see these videos and then in 3 months say, "Where's my Gen 12? You promised it was 318, blah 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 blah." But at the end of the day, I wish the internet wasn't like that. I wish the internet was more balanced like us. But I can see how it's going to bite them in the ass. But at the moment, at the very least, until that point, I'm glad they're doing it. But yeah, guys, let me know your comments in the section below. Obviously, people watching this, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section. What part of this did you like? What part did you didn't like? Did you like the fact of the full disclosure sort of stuff where they're showing more behind the scenes look? What are your thoughts on Gen 12 or anything like that? Let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Apart from that, guys, obviously big shout out to John and Hitman for obviously joining us. Furs at the moment, I believe, is at work. Unfortunately, was not able to join. But obviously, you guys are going to be hearing a lot from these guys over the next few months with a secret project. Well, not so secret project. But anyway, apart from that, guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this video has been helpful. Please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, we'll see you in the next demonetized video. You guys want to say bye?
See ya.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Enjoy yourself, guys.